So coming into the U.S. cash session open, let's take a quick look at market conditions. We did have a bit of selling. So we lifted a bit in the later part of the day yesterday. In the overnight session, a bit of selling. We came down, kind of bottomed out in this area. Price lifted, had a pretty significant linear price move, and now we're scrub. So later part of the EU market, they open and start trading about 2 in the morning U.S. Central Time going forward is the more prominent period. Here, I don't know, getting closer to like 5 a.m. Chicago U.S. Central Time, we did have some pretty nice lift, and now we're just oscillating in a range. We do have this pivot right here to pay attention to from end part of the day into the evening yesterday. So above that, we'd be working on backfilling some of that prior range from recent highs. So that's what I'm looking at. Trade up to this area and any sort of signal, mom signal, could potentially be showing some acceleration back into the prior range after rejection of any attempt to continue and have range extension above this level. Now we could come up to this area, pull back a bit, and then get some momentum into an upside move that could turn into some range extension this morning. So we'll see what happens. So watching that level, watching the markets here, and we're about 15 minutes away from the U.S. cash session open so far, and we'll stand by and see what we get here. Okay, sorry, I got a little bit busy there. So we did press that level right away, got a mom signal. So like I said, mom signal. We did get one right out of the open. They pushed the level. And not surprised we got one on the slap down. So basically that level's been taken out. We're now in this area price for our, what we'll call recent pivot high. So we'll see if we get secondary mom signal, if we were to get any lift and rotation down. We have been spending time outside the bands. Now these are the old bands. The super bands will be added to the Algo IQ group this week. Just had a very extensive period of R&D back and forth, and just really, really good work being done by the current Quant Tower programmer. So very, very pleased with what will be the first set of super bands. There I'm hearing some orders filled. I'm short on some of my other accounts. So anyhow, this morning, like I said, came down, put in like a W pattern lift, big pump here, a little bit after 5 a.m. U.S. Central Time. Kind of parked right near the recent pivot high. Institutionals came in, pushed it to see what kind of engagement they'd get. They did a level sweep. So level sweep is when you clean out prominent areas of known support and resistance. We got level sweep, and then right away got the big mom signal. One of my favorite setups is reversals out of level sweeps that I've talked about for a couple years now, depending on what kind of indicators you're utilizing. Now, I do have the Algo IQ set to mom signals. I could turn it on to reversals, but today I'm watching for momentum burst. I've been transitioning more of my trading to hitting momentum burst. We also have this getting built as a fully automated strategy, which I should be testing here tomorrow or Thursday to make sure it's doing everything I want. So none of these signals repaint or recalculate. They happen live. They're all bar close events. They're also outputs that can be tied to third-party tools. So if you use any third-party tools connected to Quant Tower for your trading, you can utilize those as actionable trade entry mechanisms. Okay, so we'll stand by. We'll see if this was just a pump so they could turn around and sell right into it. If that's the case, we'll definitely go down and maybe challenge some of the overnight session lows. Otherwise, we're just going to come into this area where we had built some initial support first part of the morning, test it, and then we might get the horsepower where they come in, press this higher, take out the high, and give us some significant or potential for some significant range extension. So we'll see what we get. Okay, standing by for more action. Actually, let's watch this a bit just in case they come back in on buy side and press this recent high, going for some additional range extension. Institutionals know they now have some shorties sitting in here that they can get to buy to cover. So if you have buy to cover buying mixed with newly initiated trade or directional buying, that can help them get extension above this level. So we'll see what we get here. Okay, standing by. I thought we were going to get a little bit more lift than that, and it's kind of paused here a bit. So we'll stand by, and if I see something with some authority coming in, then I'll go out of pause mode and go back into active screencasting mode. Okay, just realized I got a little bit distracted here, but we did get a bit of lift here. Very likely we'll press back up to the high, retest, and getting some good linear momentum as the market approaches that recently created high out of the initial push out of the U.S. cash session open. So I'm not all that big on working long setups in this type of environment, especially since I just got a really nice hit off the short side. I'm the type, in this case, I'm not like all into buying right below recent pivot highs. I do get if somebody's pretty confident, the market's pretty bullish, buying and looking for a breakout. That's almost like, let me see if I can sneak in and get in line and get some liquidity in prior to a potential breakout. That's just not my favorite trade setup. Nothing wrong with it. We did come down to the mid-band area and lift. So if you were going to be a buyer, it's better to buy in this area price or lower from a value standpoint. Value is mid-band and below to be a buyer, just in a general sense. I would rather watch for press higher, and if I got rotation over with a mom signal, I'd rather work the downside from here, as I know the market not having any particular economic news release or any catalyst, very likely not going to really press higher here the first part of the morning. It's not what I'm anticipating anyhow. Anything can happen at any time. So when you get the signal, if it's in the area price you want to be a buyer or seller, take the shot. The nice thing with these trades that I do want to mention is when you do get in a trade, let's say you get into an entry, you don't ever need any more stop. Actually, let's redo that. That's not a very good drawing. Let's open this up a bit. So you never need any more of a stop from your entry point than the most recent price pivot. That would be the maximum amount of risk. So if you're in a trade entry right in this area, there is absolutely no need to have any more stop distance ever than your most recent price pivot. And you can go down to as low as like 3 bars back if you want to trade these very tight. Now, if you trade them tight, you want to do that on settings that have been optimized through some sort of either a template we provide or some optimization work with either our automated strategy that we're putting out to the group or something like Algo Studio Pro. Then you want to be on, if you're going to trade, I'm getting in and I'm putting my stop 3 bars back. And when I get to a certain threshold of price movement, my intended direction, my stop's going to go to break even plus, and then I'm going to actively trail stop it from there until I get blipped out. You need to be trading that on settings that have been optimized, not just you take a guess. Now, if you're going to trade the setups where, hey, I'm getting into an entry, I'm putting my stop at most recent price pivot, and when the market gets about 1-to-1-ish, then I'm going to bleed out some risk. That's a different story. Then you can do some visual optimization to get your time frame and settings dialed in, to a speed of candlestick movement that fits with uh, your ability to see what price is doing, what the indicator is doing, interpreting that price, and then making decisions. That's just basic 101 for manual discretionary trading. Your candle speed needs to be at a speed that the signals that are being created by the indicator reading that candle speed are not happening too fast for you. And this is like really slow. 37 Renko is not at all fast. I mean, I can see that square happen at the bar close event and get into a trade and all that and work it no problem. Okay, let's see if we can push a little bit higher and press and get some range extension. Then we'll be back outside the main bands. Can't wait as we get into the later part of the week. I'll have the super bands up. I'll no longer be using these prior generation of bands. I'll be on my latest and greatest super bands. And that's just version 1. I have 2 different versions of the bands that I'm making. So I'm looking forward to all this developmental work that I've had running here now, starting to get these additional items deployed for the Quantar platform and for the AIQ or Algo IQ group. So there we go, basically back to the highs. And wouldn't be surprised to see a little short covering extend this a bit. Those that were seller earlier part of the morning now buying to cover and helping to drive price at least a bit. Like this is definitely not a buy setup I would ever work manually. I'm just not into buying right at resistance or selling right into support. The pullback and looking for price to come back to resistance, that made sense. And so far that area is getting rejected. So anyhow, we'll stand by. We'll see if we can get some extension, or if we're going to get a little bit of a double top and pull back this morning. Now, I will say if this area gets rejected, this has a high potential for an accelerated move off this area. If there's nobody else that's going to come in and buy, institutional side predominantly, where they run buy program activity, whether it's in 0 DTE options, baskets of stocks buying, regular options, futures buying, or a combination of those together, this would get rejected. And there you go. That was a pretty big rejection. That was a quick one. So we've already got some buyers from lower levels on just completely let go. So that could be a head fake to come in here and buy it and then now really get the range extension. But that's about as fast as I ever see the markets move on this particular time frame when there's not some news hitting the market right at that moment. So far we have some compression taking place up here. So we've held. That was a little area we stair stepped up from. See if that holds. We're compressing up against a double top high. So this market either needs to extend, give us some range extension, or it's going to muddle around and die and come back, test this lower level, and either hold or press down into the lower overnight session period range. So we'll see what we get here. So standing by, but so far, decent little push out of the open. Love the slap down off that first press where we had a level sweep of the yesterday's later in the day pivot. And now we have the market trying to challenge the upside here a bit, trying to move that range, extending the upper side of the recent range higher and higher. So again, not an area that I'd be in love with to be a buyer. I'd rather be a seller at this area or above on any mom signals. Okay, so no authority yet, no conviction to the upside. Little quick after actions review of the morning's action so far. If you work the first mom signal out of the open, you got a little extension before we went to Dodger Blue. So any stop to break even on the extension. Might have grabbed something, might have not. Did get a short signal right away. That gave you a decent little move. Came and held. So even if you didn't make any money on the first move, you should have made something on the second. And definitely, so I'm just saying, if you would have worked every signal right out of the open so far, should have made a decent little hit there, and then extension all the way up to the previous high. No reason to hold all of your position when you're retesting a high, anticipating a potential for a failure. Some off, and then when we go to Dodger Blue, take some off. So between not really making anything, definitely not losing anything on the first one, making some money on the next two hits, you should have already been near daily goal or beyond. If you get into the third trade of the day, as soon as you get that lift, Aqua, or if you had short stop, you would have stopped out on that. That would have been a loser. So there you have it. We finally did get some range extension. A little bit, it's kind of grinding up there, so not a lot of authority. But anyhow, so far, even though the range, the opening range is not all that wide, and it makes sense, the market opened very near recent prior session highs, or kind of the into the early part of the evening highs, and we press that a bit. That's where we sit. But decent hit here, decent hit here. Should have been near daily goal or beyond on those two hits alone. Now, if we reject this area and rotate, we're going to have some authority to the downside here. And that could be a really good fourth trade if you took, or let's say you took this, we'll call it a scratch, made some money. So that's three trades. Fourth trade gave some back. Any fifth trade, if you're still trading and we get a short signal, that could have some authority failing to break out. And that should for sure get you over a daily goal. So, okay opening, not the best. A little bit of a lack of conviction to the upside. Every time we come up, it's stalling so far. And we'll see if we get a more significant pullback into the prior range if this doesn't continue to crawl higher in the day. But I've already gone 18 minutes plus. Just wanted to show you kind of how I'm tracking everything. And yeah, if you have any questions at any time, info@gridalgo.com. Talk to you all later. I'm going to sit here and stand by and see if we get any sort of mom signal to the downside. If we do, I'm definitely going to hit that and add to the first short that I worked earlier this morning and see if I can press a little bit beyond my daily goal for the day, because I really like this area price now to be a seller with what's played out if we get the signal. Okay, everybody, talk to you a bit later, and I'll have more content posted up later today.